There it is. Wave. It says you can't turn your phone.
Nope. Sharon Holly tagged me in the video. And it won't let me click on.
Well, let's click on it. What's up, everybody? Randy Hayes is what's up, brother. Tara, how are you? Can you guys see my beautiful wife? What's up, Damien? Can I get a thumbs up if you can see my wife? I'm not sure if a picture's showing. All right, no thumbs up. Doesn't look like nothing's showing, huh? What did it say on yours?
I can see me now.
Can you? All right. Looks like we are. Perfect. Hello. Manuel, what's up? Karen, Leslie, Jennifer. You guys, thank you for jumping in. Chris, how are you guys? Maury. All right, so can you see me, baby? Let's see.
Mine's delayed.
All right, hers is definitely delayed a little bit. So what we got going is we're here to talk to you and kind of share what we went through in our relationship. We're sitting here when honestly neither one of us should even be alive. We both failed at an attempt to suicide, and we're thankful that we're here. And our relationship, by no means other than God, should ever be what we are today. That's true. The video's a little bit delayed on her phone, but if you see her on her phone, it's not. The only reason she's on there is that she's checking it out and seeing if anybody has any questions, or we want to be really interactive with you guys through this. It's somewhat of a tragic story, but at the same time, it's ended up so great, and I'm excited to see where the rest of our life goes from here, And this is the first time my beautiful wife has ever been on any live video, I think. And she was really excited to come on this too. So we're going to be sharing some things with you that are really personal, and that it was hard for us. We definitely went through some really hard times to get to where we are today, but we didn't give up on each other. And some of the stuff we're going to share with you, like I said, is really personal, but we want to share it with you because we know, especially with COVID going on, that there's a lot of relationships right now that are hanging on by a thread. And sometimes we got to remind ourselves that when we fall in love, and I was just having this conversation earlier with some friends, but when we fall in love with somebody, we're all putting on a front. You're putting on a front. Your significant other, the person you like at the time's putting on a front. And it's not a horrible thing. We're just really trying to impress that person because we like them. We see ourselves with them. They make us feel good. And so, we want to impress them. And sometimes, we leave more often than not, we leave our flaws out of it. I remember my beautiful wife, she wouldn't even fart in front of me.
Really?
And I wouldn't even fart in front of her. Let's put it that way. And I know you guys didn't fart in front of your significant others. If you had to poop, you were holding it in. You'd be like, I got a meeting. My mom called. I got to go pick up the kids or something crazy, because you didn't want to poop in front of that person. And that's something we do every day. Every day we're maybe 2, 3, 4, 5. So who knows? I don't know what situation you're in, but many times a day we're taking dumps, right? And now that we've been into a relationship, we're comfortable doing that. I've even sat on the toilet and be like, hey babe, come here, I want to talk to you, And she's like, well, I don't want to be in here. But we're comfortable, But when we first meet somebody, we don't want to expose that side of us. We're vulnerable to that, and we just really want to impress that person. And sometimes we overdo it with that, of wanting to do that. And then when we finally do be who we truly are, sometimes it doesn't work out. Or sometimes those flaws cause a little bit of issues in the relationship. But that's who we are, We got to learn to love each other's flaws. And but when I first met my beautiful wife, I was actually in a horrible spot myself. And, I had my previous relationship with my oldest kid's mom, and I was really wrapped up in gangs and drugs, and I was gone. I was not a good significant other. I wasn't a good parent. I wasn't a good human being. I had this complex about me, and my complex about me and the way I felt about myself and the way I approached the world was not in the best interest of anybody but myself. And as you can imagine, after 13 years, that relationship failed, and it disconnected me from my older kids for a while. But glory to God, I'm connected with them again. And I love them so much, and I'm a better man today to be a better father for them. But my cousin Kiko used to tell me all the time, he was always there for me, and I love him to death. He's always trying to get me to go out, and I was just in this slump, didn't really want to do anything, and I was still pretty messed up on drugs myself and partying. And I remember, and this is a true story. I remember, I'd been in it for a while, and we started going out. I started going out and hanging out with them, but I still didn't like who I was becoming and who I was. There was nothing that was changing about me. And I remember I was praying to God, and I was just telling him, God, I know you're real, God. I know you're real, and I love you, and if you would, God, please put an angel in my life to guide me through this world. I need some guidance. And believe it or not, it wasn't too long after that I met Angel, and wow, right? He literally was like, all right, let me give you an angel. I think that's freaking awesome. It could have been any other name, who knows? And possibly, honestly, as you hear our story, it could have been any other name, and shame on me, for even being like that way and playing with other people's feelings and emotions like that. But he sent me this beautiful woman, and the moment I met her, I looked at her, and she was with her aunt. We walked into the soul. Some people say you can't find a lover at a bar and this and that. I don't recommend it. but sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. You don't know where you're going to be when you find the person that's going to be right for you in life, right? And she was broken, and I didn't know that. I was broken, and she didn't know that, because we were throwing up those little fronts, like I was just talking about. But I knew when I seen her, I knew there was something special about her. Just hanging out with her, she just, I'd been talking to many other girls, and I'd been doing more than talking with many other girls. And once again, shame on me. That's definitely not the way to handle any kind of anything, And I realize that now, but at the time I thought it was going to bring peace to me, and it didn't. And if anything, it hurt other people because I was playing with their emotions. But I knew there was something about her. So even when, remember I told you we're going to be real about stuff, even when I was being with other girls and at different times, she's a person that would be in my mind and that I'd be thinking of. And anytime somebody called me and want to do something, I'd go do stuff with them. But at the end of the day, I'd be calling her because I wanted to talk to her, And I know that sounds awful. And we're real with each other, This is nothing. You guys aren't going to find out. She's not going to find out nothing. And I'm surely not going to find out anything new that we're sharing with you guys. We're really open with one another. But I was in love with her, and I knew the more time I spent with her, the more I fell in love with her. And I even told my cousin, I said, you know what, she's the one. I go, you watch, I'm gonna marry that girl one of these days. And he's just laughing at me, and he called her a barfly, and he's like,
if you're watching this, you punk.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's my little barfly, But I did. I fell in love with this woman, and she made me feel something really good about myself. And I put on those fronts as well. I didn't want to fart in front of her either, obviously, but times have changed. No. Just joking.
No, he's not. He's not joking.
I'll let her share her side of that with you, and we can move forward.
So when I first met you, so that night I wasn't going to go out either. My aunt was like, come on, let's just go have some drinks. She had her ex-husband's car at the time, and I was like, okay, fine. And we're sitting there, and of course she sees Kiko, and she's like, no, those guys are gay. Lobo says they're crazy. But they did come over and say hi to us, and I think what attracted me the most was you told me you were a Scorpio. For some reason, I was very into signs, and and to me, that was my compatibility sign, was a Scorpio. But we had so much fun that night. I remember my aunt trying to get me to go home, and I told her, no, take me to where they're going, and let's go have some fun and dance, and I made her take me. And I believe it was dancing to Neon Moon at the time, singing really loud. We had a lot of tequila, though, that night. But from that moment on, I really liked him. I kissed him that night, I think. I did kiss him. And I said...
It was good. It was good. I've had a lot to do with why I fell in love with her too.
But, you know, after getting to know him, I really thought he was just being a big player. So I did make him, at least made him wait for it for a little while before I just jumped all in, because everything to me felt like a line. Now come over and I'll make you spaghetti. We don't have to do nothing. I just want to cook for you. But the more and more I talked with him, the more and more a lot of phone conversations happened. Lots of phone conversations. I believe you made me a mixed CD.
I did. Remember CDs, guys?
Yeah, CDs. And I remember listening to it and I just think I was just melting slower and slower. He just broke the wall down a little bit every time.
Some good songs.
Very good songs on it. Stupid. But I think eventually, when I just really sat and got to know him, I just wanted to be around him a lot more. I knew he was being with other girls. I was not dumb or blind to that. I did know. Just because the way he was. But we were really open back then too, kind of, with each other. We weren't serious, and we knew we weren't serious at the time. But I think we just slowly started falling head over heels, and then we just wanted to be around each other more and more.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's just how it ended up for us. I just got out of a relationship with my daughter's dad, so I wasn't really looking for anything serious when I met Shannon. So it's another reason why I waited to jump into something serious, because I knew I was just getting out of a relationship, so I didn't want to just go from one relationship to another one, which is what ended up happening anyway. And yeah, at the time, it was just kind of what I needed. At the time, I was still messing up a lot on drugs as well. Partying, drinking. And I remember us trying to party and drink like that with each other one time. And it was just the most awkwardest situation I've ever been in my life. I've never felt awkward around anybody. I was a party girl. I could party with anyone. And with him, I was just like, it was like partying in front of my dad or my mom. Not like that. It's the awkwardness of like, you don't want to take a drink in front of your parents, or the awkwardness like, what the hell am I doing? I don't want this person to see this side of me like that, because I don't want him to think less of me. I really like him. So
that's how I felt.
That was, I think, our one and only time we even ever partied like that together.
Yep.
It was our first and last, and
absolutely. I
think I kind of realized like that was just kind of strange for me. Like, why did I want to be a better person in front of him? It was just weird at the time.
It was great. Let's see. We're going to go and we're going to look at some of the comments real quick. As you guys know, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, I always bring this up. My dog Thanos, my puppy boy, he ate my glasses, so I'm really blind. I'm sitting here and I can see blurs. Now, you really don't want to put these things on. These are my work glasses, and yeah, we'll just let her do the reading and see if you guys have any questions or anything so far. This beautiful honeymoon thing, it definitely turns tragic over time, but the restoration is so beautiful.
Someone said flip your phone.
So flip my phone? Do I need to flip my phone? We're on a little bit of a delay. Is it good the way it is, or do we need to flip it? If I flip it, I might lose you guys out of the thing. But
so they need to put it straight up so you can see it like how we're seeing it. Oh yeah, because look, if you flip it, it's like this.
All right, let's try that.
Yes, flip it, Kim said.
All right. How's that?
Oh, okay. Look, that is way better.
All right. Is that better? Can we see me? Am I still in the picture? Let's see. Remember, we're on a little bit of a delay. Oh, there he is. Good job, Mike. Take this opportunity to do
Much better.
Take this opportunity to do a commercial break. Exclusive. Good job on the haircut. Feel really good about myself right now. Thank you.
Oh my Lord, I swear.
Awesome.
That's one thing that's never changed since we got together. The conceitedness.
Oh, it does change.
No.
When my hair gets all crazy and I have these on, there's nothing to be conceited about this. There's nothing to be conceited about this. This is bad. I'd rather be blind.
You're such a nerd.
Oh, God. See? I just got a whiff of that right there. All right. So did anybody have any questions for us so far? Just hang in there. Be with us. Like I said, this is something we want to share with you because I feel it could be useful and maybe some ways to help you if you're going through something or you know somebody who is to hold on to that thread of hope. So if you have some questions, we want to really dig in with you guys, and we really want to just hear what you have to say. Anything?
So,
if not, we'll go.
Maybe that person got in kind of like Eddie Johnson?
Eddie, yeah, how you doing? Real quick, I was just going back. We met at a bar, yep, of all places, and we kind of went over that a little bit ago. It's definitely in the beginning parts of the video. I don't want to go too much on it, but we did meet in a bar, and I don't recommend that to people. The outcome ain't always the greatest, and she was actually one good outcome out of probably a lot. I'll just leave it at that.
And how did we help each other overcome drugs?
And the drugs, it was like my beautiful wife just said, I just feel like a better person with her. I didn't need them. And I felt awkward with her as well. She was just mentioning how she felt awkward around me when she was on it. And it was the same way with me. And I liked the way I felt and the way I feel around her. And the comfort with that. And now that we're further along in our relationship, as with our sobriety, there's no way I'd ever want to take the chance to accidentally lose all that by feeding myself a lie. And that lie would be, you can do it just one time, Shannon. Just this one time and you'll be all right. That's not the case. And I know that's not the case. I know how I was on that, how it made me feel. I know everything about that, and I hate it. But there was a part of me at the same time that loved it too. And if that makes sense, but I hate it way more. And everything that I have and everything that I am, I would never want to jeopardize it for any of that. It just comes down to being happy with one another and happy and content with what we got and understanding what it will cost us.
I think for me, it's because I'm the one that did relapse recently, about almost 6 years ago. Me wanting to be sober and going to that back and forth, off and on stuff, like through my whole life. When I met Shannon, it was, I mean, the first thing obviously was that we couldn't party around each other like that without it being awkward. So that helped tremendously in a relationship because, when you can do drugs together, it's really hard to get clean and sober, which was probably the majority of the first relationships probably that I had. That helped a lot. Not only that, it brought out a different side of me that I'm really not proud of. I was angry, mean, evil, and that's just none of my characteristics at all. Like, I'm the complete opposite of what I am right now when I'm on that stuff. And I didn't want to be that around him. And honestly, when I did have a really bad relapse, and we'll go into that later, about 6 years ago when we ended up splitting up, it just took me down a really dark path. And I think for me, I had to learn to get sober to better myself and be better for me before I could even learn to be a better wife and a better mother. So he helped me with that. Just being around him and knowing that that's not what I wanted him to see really helped me change a lot of that around, because he was locked up for a majority of my relapse. So not him to be there to kind of pull me back as much as he tried before he even went in. The minute he got out, for some reason I felt like a weight lifted, like I knew I could get better if I tried.
Yeah.
And I had your support.
Absolutely.
Even though he had no reason to give me it, he had every reason to pick up and run and leave. But he stood by me through a lot of that. So
Amen.
I thank you for it.
Yeah, and I love you. So we'll go a little further in. After we got to know each other and dating with each other for a while. We'd been together for maybe a year, and oof, here comes our little Mariah, and it was crazy because I don't know that we were ready for that at the time, and we were still becoming and working on becoming better people, and not so much ready for a family at the time, but we weren't going to run from it either. But it was that was a little bit difficult, and my little Mariah, she changed my life, that little girl, and she used to cry a lot, and I didn't give her much attention at all, and I was working out on the drilling rigs, and I'd come home and sleep, and still getting high behind her back, thinking it was in the back, and going into the bathroom getting high all the time before I'd go out to work, and because again, we were working on the sobriety thing. We liked each other, but we didn't want to be around and on that stuff around us. But anybody who's messed around with methamphetamines, and got anybody who's on it currently and or has been on it and got away with it, they could tell you it's not easy. And before we bash, we're not going to bash anybody who does that stuff or is in that lifestyle, because I could tell you that nobody ever picks up a drug and says, you know what, I'm going to ruin my life and turn on the people I love most for the rest of my life. That's not what people think, and things happen, circumstances, whatever it may be, to get them to try it, and then the drug takes over. That's how that happens. But we won't go into that. That's not. We'll save that for another time, for the Changes Project. But so, Mariah cried a lot, and I wasn't getting rest. We had neighbors upstairs, and they had wood floors. We had our own place, and all you hear is running back and forth all day. That's Thanos, my Thanos dog. But when I did finally, she was crying and crying and crying and crying. She wouldn't stop, and I finally did. I picked her up, and I just looked at her. She's just the most beautiful little girl. And I looked at her. She's crying, and I just looked at her and I said, you know what, Mariah? I said, from now on, we're gonna call you My. And I told her, I go, because My, you are so beautiful. And she was, and she stopped crying. We built a bond, a real strong bond, and I'm very thankful for that and everything. But we weren't ready for it, and we got into our place, and after she was born, I think it wasn't too long after that I did completely stop with the methamphetamines. I started going to church. I started feeling really good about myself and my relationship with God. My wife and I, we got baptized together, and we were able to sit down in a big tub and hold each other's hands, and they leaned us back together, dunked us underwater, and we accepted God into our life at the same time. And my life was already starting to change right there. I felt really good. I was starting to become the man that I wish I could have been for my older kids. I say what I'm about to say, I say with the utmost sincerity and respect, and it might not sound right, but I wish that the man that I was starting to become with her, that I would have always been that man, because I like who that man is, and that's how we're supposed to be as men. We're, the respect, the love, and everything. But I'm glad it didn't, for the simple reason is that my oldest kid's mom, I wasn't happy with her. I didn't. It was the same thing when we got together. We ended up having kids. I was a gang member, a hardcore, freaking out there doing whatever, non-stop gang member, deep into it when we got together. Shootings all the time, through her parents' house, our houses, our cars. I mean, a lot going on, and we had a kid, and it kind of just developed into whatever for 13 years. And I'm glad I'm glad that it didn't turn out that way, because then I would have never met Angel. you know, I probably would have never became the man that I need to be for my older kids, whom I love very much. I love all my older kids very much. For my kids in this relationship, their brothers and sisters, you know, and it's because, you know, like I said, it's because of what I went through and everything that I started to change with her, and we started doing family things. It was a lot of fun. We were always going to do stuff. We were camping, doing all this stuff that I was missed out on with the older kids, and I get the opportunity to do it with them now and with my grandkids. But I really wish I could take that back, but I can't, and I can't dwell on it. It does bother me, but I was happy becoming this person, you know, but after that, you know, after that baptism, you know, things quickly took a turn, and we'll go into that. I'll just let Angel share her side of everything up into this, and before we go into the devil coming in and really destroying, and I mean really doing a number on this relationship.
So yeah, right around when Mama was born, definitely was not ready for another baby. I was living in my mom's house. I already had a daughter. I had no job, no car, no place of my own. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was very upset about it at first. It wasn't something to be like, I tried to get excited about, but I couldn't. And this one's really hard to do. So I'm glad my baby was born. Okay, but I did mess up a lot with her when I was pregnant. A lot. And drinking and drugs, and I'm just so glad that she's such a smart, wonderful little girl, and I'm so glad that she's okay, but just certain things that you know, the drug just gets you sometimes, and I just felt like I was in denial of being pregnant. I was like, I'm not pregnant. I can't be pregnant. This isn't gonna happen. And I'm really glad that, you know, she was born okay. And for a little bit, I was able to change and be sober for a little while, but I was still doing what he was doing behind my back. I was still doing the same thing when he wasn't around. And I don't feel like I got to enjoy her or her sister, her older sister, like I wish I should have. But when we got baptized, I was at a point where I wanted that so bad. I wanted to be in church and do better. I wanted it so bad that I felt like I was in one foot in church and one foot out. I wanted that so bad, but I also didn't want to stop drinking on when I wanted to drink or do other stuff when I wanted to do other stuff. I didn't change everything. I wanted it to take it away, but I just couldn't at the time. And like my husband's saying, after that, yeah, it's about to take a turn for the worst, definitely, in our relationship. And this will be up to the point where, you know, I had Deja. I actually got pregnant with Deja, so I was sober for a little bit, maybe 3-4 years. Yeah. Actual complete sober 3 or 4 years. And then I wanted to plan to have Deja. She was my planned baby, and I wouldn't even take Tylenol or anything. I got a sinus infection with Deja. I was like, you know, I don't even want no medicine because of what I did with Mariah. I made sure that this time I did it right. I would never do that again to any of my other kids, and I didn't. And I didn't do that with Peyton. I didn't do that with Deja. And she came, and man, she's just so beautiful. My little widow. I was so in love with her. I just felt, even though we lived on our own and everything already, we still kind of weren't in a great spot. Shannon had a good job, but I wasn't working. So, you know, when you have, Shannon had 4 other kids, you have Natty, now Mariah, now Deja, you know, we're a big family. So I just feel like we could have been a little bit better financially before we just tried to have more babies, but I was determined to have Deja. And I think for me, it was more about fixing my mistakes with Mariah. I wanted to try to fix with Deja, and that didn't end up happening, actually.
So we're gonna take a quick second to go over and look over some comments again, and maybe if some questions and everything. The next part that we are going into is a very, very sensitive and difficult subject and part of our lives. Again, we're choosing to share this with you for two reasons. One is that we overcame this by the glory of God, and it's only because of God that we're still sitting here, even alive, not just together, but alive today. And so how can we keep that to ourselves? And I know we got a lot of friends who've lost somebody to suicide, and for that it breaks my heart, and I wish I had the answers. I can't answer the question of why we're still here and somebody else ain't, but all I could do is take advantage of the opportunity that we are and be thankful for it. I wish I did have answers for something like that, but it's just something I don't. We're also, second reason we're sharing this with you is because you guys are our friends. We care about you. You know, we have you part of our lives for a reason, and it's because you're our friends, and we do care about you. And a lot of you are going through it right now, and we want to be able to use what we went through to possibly give you some hope in what you're going through. And in no way am I trying to say if you're in a dangerous situation in a relationship where somebody's getting hurt or you're getting hurt or anything like that, to stick something out like that it's going to get better. That's not safe. That's not safe, and you should really really step back and look at what you're going through right now, and evaluate what you need to do to get into a safe spot and reach out to somebody. But if for other relationships where where you're running into your ups and downs, or your pride's getting in the way, or even drugs are getting in the way, or something's gotten in the way, maybe even cheating, it's here, it's in the story, but the love is there. The trust could be rebuilt back up, the love could be rebuilt back up, and that's what we're hoping to share with you. Did you look over that?
Oh. Angel, you cried like, oh, Ashley, I love you, baby.
Yeah.
Let's see. We can't see age.
Let's turn it so we can see the strange a little bit better.
But I think that's it.
Okay. Well.
Right. No questions so far. Maybe at the end might have.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple seconds.
Oh, look, see this.
There she is. She's so beautiful. You need to see more of her and less of me, for sure.
Well, I'll definitely keep her in a mentee, I promise. Let her know I love her to reach out to me if she needs me.
Good.
Yeah, we're good. All
right.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments as well, too.
Yes, and the hearts and the love. And thank you for staying in and listening to us.
Yeah.
I mean, these things aren't easy. So, again, we're about ready to go into some difficult stuff here. And it's emotional for both of us. But so we'll hear my view of what went down, and then my beautiful wife's view. Yeah. So, life was good. Life was good. I was happy. I finally was becoming the man that I always wanted to be, what I thought normal was. I remember lots of times looking in the mirror, being hooked on dope, and my face all sucked in, and thinking about my son Isaac and my daughter Ashley and Daniela and Michaela, and how I neglected them and didn't spend time with them, how I was angry with them, how I wasn't a father, and I was broken. And I remember lots of times looking in the mirrors just crying, but stuck on that stuff, because when I would come down, I knew that I wanted away from it, and I'd look in the mirror and I knew I wanted to be a dad to them. I wanted to love them. I wanted to be there for them. But when the next day, going through the withdrawals and everything else, you start being angry and just hateful to everybody, and you just want to sleep all the time, and then you're weak, and you want to get that freaking drug again so that you could get high just to get back to feeling back to normal. And then once you do that, then boof, forget them again. That's just how that is. It's horrible. But that's how it is with everybody who's done that drug. I have not met somebody yet who hasn't had the unfortunate events that take place that what we've went through as well. But with that being said, you know, I was on my sobriety. I'd say maybe 4 years, going on 5 years of sobriety. No methamphetamines in me. Still drinking some beers and everything, but no meth. And I felt like I finally was becoming the man that I prayed to be. I was finally that normal, praying for normal, whatever normal is. You know, I think we make a mistake by trying to put a look and a way to normal, because my normal is different than yours. But it felt good. I was finally being a responsible person for my family. I was my kids' mom, my oldest kids' mom. She would not let me see my kids for nothing, and so I would go to the school and I would see them and I'd walk them. See him for that little bit. She'd let me see him on Christmas for a couple minutes just to drop him off presents. But then other than that, you know, I had to go to the schools to go see them and walk them home from school on my days off when I wasn't out at the rig. But I was still doing that, and to me, I was sober doing it, so it felt good because they were talking to me, and I was seeing them, and I was loving them, and I missed them, and everything that I missed out from being the dad that I should have been and wasn't, I was finally being able to do. Even if it was only for a few minutes a day, I was still able to do it, and just it felt good. And I was still able to, you know, my other kids that I have with Angel, we were still doing those things. Like I said, we were going camping, and you know, it felt right. Everything was good, and then it wasn't. You know, she's my best friend, and so living the lifestyle that I lived, you can recognize the signs of anything when they're there. And so I started recognizing a lot of things that were coming back to haunt me from the way I used to be and from being in that lifestyle. And so it was obvious to me what she was doing. And I remember waking up one night even, and she was gone. She wasn't even at the house, you know. She's just gone. And so I thought that because of how strong our relationship was over the last 5 years that we were together, 4 or 5 years, and because of how far we've grown, and you know, because we sat in a tub and was baptized with each other, I thought that I was going to be able to tell her, like, you know, I didn't come to her in a understanding way of like, okay, look, I know something's not right. I know what's going on. What do we need to do to fix this? It wasn't nothing like that. I came to her with an ultimatum. It's me or these drugs. You know, we got a family, and I have no room for this in my life. I have no room for this. It's me or the drugs. And she chose the drugs. And, you know, I had a hard time dealing with that. And I'm still out at the rig, and I'm trying to get out there and pull my 12 hours and work and not have that on my mind. But it just would not escape my mind. And then a coworker of mine, you know, he freaking mentioned some things to me, or said some things that about her being with some other person.
It happened to be a lie.
Yeah.
It happened to be a lie.
Yeah.
I wasn't being with
Yeah.
It was the drugs.
Exactly. And she was trying to hide that, but it made sense because of it. But he was saying that, you know, this person, you know, she's being with this person who she had a history with before. And so I was like, no, and he kept telling me more things, and then it all fit into the sneakiness of her trying to hide the drugs. So I left work. I was tripping, and I told him I gotta go. I gotta go. My tool pusher knew I was going through some things, and he knew it wasn't a good idea for me to go, but he knew he wasn't gonna stop me either. And I left, and when I got to the house, she wasn't there. And that just sparked up more stuff, and I'm just heated. And so I know where she's at. She's at the person that she's been getting high with. And so I drove over to this person's house, and sure enough, there it is. And we get into a big old argument. And, you know, I end up going and staying with my aunt. And going through the drugs, like I said with my kids, when I was high and I was with my ex, there was times when I'd be coming down, or a lot of times when I was incarcerated and again coming down, that your mind starts clearing up. That fog and that lie and that mask and everything that just gets into your brain and starts making you blind to the rest of the world starts going away, and reality starts to hit. And it's in those moments that you want things to work. You want things to work, so you try, and it really is in your heart what you want. But then the cravings and everything else come back, and you go back to that, and then all of a sudden the cloudiness and everything is still there. Well, we were going like this with our relationship, trying to work it out.
Months.
Yeah, 1 minute it's good. I'm thinking everything's gonna work out, and then the next minute it's bad. It's not. Again, we're fighting. Arguments are there, and she's ignoring me, hanging up on me. I'm trying to get through to her. She's doing her thing with other guys, which really was killing me on the inside. But what I'm thankful for is I didn't turn back to drugs, but I really did turn to alcohol and using that as a coping skill instead of doing it the right way. And I know that sounds weird because I'm drinking a beer right now. We're responsible drinkers for sure, and I've learned bigger coping skills and everything. But at the time, I was using that as a coping skill, and I was drinking an awful lot, and it was clouding my judgment as well. And so we're back and forth, and one night in particular, I had been out talking to other girls and being around other girls and someone else, and during this time, I'm not being the best person either with that heartbreak. But as soon as I found out she was being with another person, then my coping skills for that, obviously, and shame on me, but I was out there all the time sleeping with different people, and I'm not proud of that. That's nothing to be proud of. I'm very grateful that I didn't catch no life-threatening diseases from that could have impacted my life for the rest of my future, or the kids would have been born with. What if I would have caught something? What if I would have caught AIDS and then we got back together and now our kids would have had it? Those are all possibilities that could have happened. What if that sweet girl that I was talking to who was innocent, and I was telling her all these nice things for my own agenda, and she was falling for it, and then I'm being with someone else and go be with her, then I could have ruined her life. It's nothing to be proud of, and I'm not. I'm really disgusted with myself, but I forgive myself for that. But at the time, drinking, and I was using that as a coping skill. One night, and we had some pretty bad arguments, and one night we got together, and everything was going good, and we were drinking, and we threw on our neon moon, and we were out at the bar, and we were kicking back, and it was good. It was good, but you guys got to agree with me on this. When we're going through something this traumatic, where there's drug abuse and people being with other people, and all this negativity happening for months on end, that's not the way to. That's definitely not the smart way to
celebrate, trying to hang out together.
Hang out with each other, absolutely. But we did, and then at the end of the night, we were having a great time, and at the end of the night, she just started fighting with me, and I couldn't figure and so it turned into a fight. We had a fight. She wanted to leave, and when she went outside to leave, I stood in front of the car and I started fighting with her. I was drinking. I wasn't freaking being very nice about it at all either. And I was telling her she ain't gonna go anywhere. I even picked her up and grabbed her and walked her away from the freaking vehicle. Anyway, people started coming out of the building, and unfortunately, I'm no stranger to trouble. Thank God, hallelujah, that's a part of my past. But I knew with people coming out of the building that people were looking at this and that. I didn't want to get in trouble, and so I threw her keys. She left. I had another friend with me, and I had my vehicle. It was winter time. I didn't have a coat on. I had left my phone in the vehicle, and he took off in the vehicle, and I started walking towards the house. And in my mind, I'm trying to think, okay, maybe, again, I was drinking, so this is how I remember it. But I remember thinking, maybe something happened to trigger her, get her angry, whatever, because we had been drinking an awful lot. I'm gonna walk to the house. I'll give it some time. Maybe she's had time to cool down. So the house, we lived over at the Alamos, and I was walking from 8th Avenue. And so it was some time before I got there. But when I got on there, I knocked on the door. And when I knocked on the door, I heard her aunt answer. And as soon as I heard her aunt in there, then I knew what was going on in that house. And it triggered me. And so I kicked open the door of my house, and there she is with some dude and some other people there, and I'm throwing people out of the house, and a fight breaks out, and we're yelling, and I'm pushing her, she's yelling at me, and then the kid starts crying, and the back room, and I go to the back room, and from what I remember of everything, again, I was really intoxicated, and I'm not trying to make my wife out to be a beast at all, because I played my part in the decisions I made there, and I wasn't being nice about it at all. I was very angered and fueled by alcohol. But she jumped on me, and I slammed her back, and I did kicked her in the head, which should never put my hands on her. But I had my kids in my hand. There was a big old fight that broke out, and then the police got called. And I'm still telling these people to get out of my house because they're smoking freaking meth on my couch while my kids are in the back room. And I'm telling them to get the hell out of my house. And freaking, when the police get on the thing, then I'm telling them, they're telling them what's going on, and they hear my name. They hear, they know that I've been in the gangs. They know my background and what I've done and what I'm capable of. And so, when they were giving the description and talking to them, my wife said, "I hope they kill you." And when she said that, something inside of me, it was done right there. Like every bit of piece of me that was in me broke right there. And I knew instantly in my mind what I was gonna do. And I was gonna make these cops shoot me. That's what it was. I was ready to die right then and there. And so I said very loudly and clearly, "Well, tell them I have a gun." And they heard that on the 911 call. And the police came, and they were outside, and arguing was still going on. Like I said, I was very angry, and I was definitely doing my part. We went outside. I went outside, but I went outside with my hands behind my back, and with my hands behind my back in a threatening way. I didn't go out there like I surrendered. I went out there like, I got a gun, and I'm gonna pull it on all of you, and I'm gonna shoot you unless you shoot me first. And when I stood outside, there were several armed officers right out my front door. I'm out the front door, and they're just right there by our cars. There's armed officers. They all got their guns on me, and they're telling me, "Shannon, put down the weapon, put down the weapon." And I got my hands behind my back, and I'm thinking, I've got a little bit of that angel type thing and devil thing on, and I got this side saying, "Shannon, 1 second. I shouldn't even have that. All right. So there's part of me that's saying, "Don't do this, Shannon. You've come too far in life. You're away from the gangs. You're away from the drugs. You've built up this relationship with your family, with your kids. Do not do this, Shannon. You're finally away from everything. Don't do this." And then there's the other side of me, and all I heard in my head was her voice saying, "I hope they kill you. I hope they kill you." And so I leaped out at him. As soon as they kept telling me to put the weapon down, and I jumped out at him. I threw my arms out at him, and they fired a shot. And it was dark. It was early in the morning. I think it was about 1 o'clock. They fired a shot, and I heard the shotgun go bang. I seen the fire come from the muzzle, or from the end of the gun, and hit me in the chest. And that lifted me up out of my shoes. It blew up. One of my shoes fell off, and the only reason it didn't take me to the ground is because I was so close to the wall. But I hit the wall, and I looked down, and I was bleeding. I didn't have a shirt on, and so I was bleeding real bad. And I knew I made a mistake. At that moment, I knew, like, okay, I don't want to. Honestly, it's like timeout. I was just fucking around, but I took off running. You know, I knew that I didn't want to die. I knew instantly, as soon as that hit me, that I had made a poor choice. I didn't want to die, and I took off running, but I couldn't breathe, and you know, so I fell. I don't remember a whole lot. I remember yelling at the police, telling them about the people that were in the house. Regardless of what they were doing, that's what they were known for doing. I was telling them about. I was yelling at them and telling them that they were stupid, and that they had one job and they couldn't even do that. And then I blacked out, and I woke up in the hospital, and I blacked out again. And you know, by the grace of God, my little baby girl, unfortunately for her, my 3-year-old little Mariah, who came into my life and turned into my little Mai, she come running out of the house when she heard all of that. And unfortunately for her, she witnessed the whole thing, and I'll forever hate myself for that. I forgive myself, but that's something that's hard to let go, especially after hearing her scream in the 911 call, which we'll go into here after a while. But ultimately, she saved my life, because I believe that those officers are trained enough, and they had the opportunity, and I can't speak for them, and I know they were there doing their job, and I led them in every way to believe that I was going to do something very threatening towards them as well. And so I don't blame them at all. This was all my personal choices. Everything I did, I take accountability for all of it. But I believe that had she not run out the house, that they had an opportunity to get rid of a troublemaker, a known troublemaker that's been in trouble for years in Greeley, who's caused nothing but troubles. They've been involved in all these shootings and all these stabbings and all this gang activity and the SWAT raids and all this craziness. There was an opportunity to take out the trash. However, that's a horrible way to say it, and I can't even say that that's how they even think that way, and I would never even speculate that. But I believe because Mariah was there in their training, that instead of opening up on me and unloading all those weapons on me, that they fired a less lethal round out of a shotgun, and I'm very thankful to God that she ran outside, but I'm very sorry to her that she had to witness that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So why don't I even start with that? So the things I remember of the night were us fighting at the bar. I was more buzzed than I was completely drunk, because at the time I was really bad on meth, and anybody that does that knows it takes you a very, very long time to get to drunk. Just because you keep smoking this stuff, so you never really fully get drunk. So I remember us fighting over something really stupid at the bar, and of course him being intoxicated and me just acting all dumb. I'm just like, whatever, I'm just gonna leave. So the big thing did happen outside. He didn't want to let me go. The people coming out is what got him to give me the keys. So I did drive really drunk to the house. So I'm not saying that I wasn't intoxicated. I'm just saying that I just probably wasn't as intoxicated as him. But I still was drinking, and I still was messed up. And I think I'd been smoking weed that day too as well. So it was just a combo of everything. But when we got to my house, my apartment, the reason my aunt was there, and he knows, she was staying with me at the time, because you even spent the night before. Her and Mingo had lived with us at the time, because she had just got out of her apartment. So that's the reason she was there. The other guy that was there was not somebody I was being with. That was one of her friends that she sells to. And we weren't getting high in the house at the time, because, and I'm pretty sure that's what he thought, because she heard people. So of course it's what he's going to assume. Is like, the thing was that I didn't come out to Shannon and be like, I'm getting high. He just knew. And I knew he knew. And I knew he's not that dumb. So I couldn't sit there and be like, well, I'm not getting high. I just didn't come out and tell him that I was. But he knew that I was. So, of course, him reacting, hearing people inside, of course that's what he was thinking. I knew he was getting crazy and that he might show up, so I was actually just trying to find somewhere else to leave to. And Serena was going to watch my girls. Well, my aunt was going to watch my girls. I don't want to name no names. Sorry.
Go back.
My bad.
Swipe that from the record.
Yeah. But my aunt was going to watch the kids for me, so I could leave. and I didn't get out in time. And I escalated something that could have been very preventative. He did come in mad, kick my door down because we wouldn't open it for him, because he did just want to get his kids. And if he has the opportunity to, obviously I wasn't going to let him leave with them because he was drinking. But I could have de-escalated the situation very, very much so. And I intensified it. As he walked to the room, I punched him in the back of his head, I punched him in the back of his back, I slapped him, scratched him. I was doing everything I could to be stupid and overreactive. A lot of that night is a lot of my fault. So I did put hands on him first. And obviously, I'm not being like, well, I deserved all this and I deserved that. We both shouldn't have put hands on each other, because I believe if my husband's not going to put hands on me, I have no business putting hands on him as well. There's other ways to handle situations. So the things that I said that night, the minute you say something out of anger and just being spiteful and just being like I said, that drug makes me a very, very ugly person, a very heartless person, to where I'm just like, I don't care, I don't need him, whatever. And me telling him that I wish the cops would kill him, I instantly regretted it when he was trying to go outside with the freaking, what I thought you had a knife in your back. Yeah, he had a knife holding his back. And I was trying to stop him. Even after everything, I was still telling him no. And he was like, whatever happens, this is your fault. You remember what you said. And I instantly wanted to take back what I said, because obviously I didn't mean it. I loved him. I loved him with all my heart, but I didn't. At the time, I loved him, but I wanted to get high, but I wanted to love him too. I wanted him to accept that I was going to be the shitty person, and I just wanted him to deal with it. And how fair is that to somebody? That'd just be like me expecting him to go out and party and do what God knows what, because obviously you don't know what nobody's doing on that stuff, and then just be able to come home and just love me and me love him back without caring about it. That's what I wanted, and I wanted my cake and eat it too, and I couldn't do it at the time. And if I could take back ever calling the cops, if I can take back everything about that night, I mean, I almost cost my kids and my stepkids their father. He was looking at 31 years over something I had told the cops that happened while I was drinking. And I should have lied and been like, no, this is my fault or whatever, but I didn't. I ended up telling him about the fight, and the charges just escalated with everything I said. I didn't know that you can get somebody kidnapping charges because they picked you up and tried to not let you leave a bar drunk. And that's exactly what happened. So my relapse 6 years ago, well, almost 6 years ago, because this March would be 6 years sober. Man, it cost me everything. It cost me a lot. I don't remember anything of Deja when she was a baby. I was out partying, and I just wanted them to go away somewhere so I can have fun so much that, I let her older sister, and she's just like, here, you have to take her, because I can't take care of her, you have to take her. And that's what kind of a pressure is that to put on a 16-year-old girl at the time. And I will for always thank her for that amazing big sister she is. And I love her so much. Ashley, for watching this, baby, I'm so sorry. But I think my relapse for me, and the time that we split up, at first it was a situation like, hey, you know what? I can do this once. And I'd just be all right. Look, I'm just going to get high while he's at work sometimes, and then I'll be okay to come home and go to sleep, and I'll be fine, And then it just escalated to like, oh, I need to get high now. And it was right down the street, and I just kept doing it, and my whole life changed from there. I think for me, when he got locked up, my whole world just flipped completely upside down when he got locked up. I started using intravenously, is how you say it? IV. I started shooting up, I guess. I was trying to be sophisticated because I hate talking about it, but I started shooting up, and I just couldn't kick it. I couldn't stop. I was looking for ways to get higher and higher because I just hated myself. I hated the fact that my babies were getting taken from me. I lost my apartment. I lost everything. There was times that I was just staying in the car that my mom bought for me. I'm not even taking care of my kids. It was just a really, really, really bad time in my life that I wish I could just take back, and I can't. But thanks to this man getting out of jail, things started to change around. I was still messing up, you know. I wanted to be sober, and then I didn't, and he knew. You could tell. Oh,
it's Peyton hugging his mama.
He doesn't like to see me cry. But I think we'll just go up to that part before he got out, because that's a little bit, it's still hard for me to talk about. But like I said, my relapse was very, very bad, and it cost me everything. It did. It cost me my husband, my best friend, the love of my life, the one person that you know, I knew if I would have just told him when it first happened, he would have been understanding, and he would have helped me if I asked right. But the fact that I was being vindictive about it and trying to hide it and make it seem like it was his fault we were having relationship problems, then nothing got fixed. It just got worse. Because I did try to put it on me. I tried to make it seem like, oh, he doesn't love me no more. He wants to be with other girls. When this whole time it was me wanting to get high and just have fun. And I don't know what it was at the time. I just think I just being young and stupid still. And I just had a lot of growing up to do. And my kids suffered for it, and so did you.
Yeah. So we'll keep going into this a little bit more. Just want to look back at the comments and
answer some questions. There was a really good question on here from your kiddo. It says, if you can go back into time and change one thing, what would it be?
Who? Her or I?
What's for both of us, I believe. I believe it's a question we both need to answer.
Yeah. You know, if I could go back into time and change one thing, it's difficult because there's so many things in life that I regret. So many things in life that I've had a hard time forgiving myself for, and just really regret. But if I changed any one of those things, then I don't know that I'd be the person I am today, or where I am today. You know, obviously it wouldn't be, you know, I'd want to change the kind of person I was. If I could go back, there is one thing I'd want to change, absolutely 100%. And that would be, I would want to change the kind of father that I was to my oldest kids. I wouldn't change the relationship with their mom because, again, I wouldn't have the person in my life that I have in my life right now. But my kids, my oldest kids, Ashley, Isaac, Daniela, Michaela. Yeah, I love you guys so much. And I was a horrible dad to you. And if I could change anything in life, that'd be what it'd be.
For me, it definitely would be this relapse. Even though it's hard to say that, but man, I didn't get to enjoy my babies, and I would have given anything to take any of that back, to be able to be there. My relapse, I did grow a lot to be able to become this new person that I am today. So it did help very, very much with this transformation of who I am now, and how much more secure I am with myself, I guess you should say.
Yeah.
And I got more self-esteem within myself now. A lot of that played into it. So, yeah, I think I would go back, and if I could, maybe things would be different. I'd probably be a different person, but I would have just kept going with my sobriety, because I was at least 3 or 4 years sober at the time I relapsed. So I would have just kept going, and now one time it'll get you.
Yeah.
And then it does. Let's see. Another good one from your kiddo. How do you overcome the cravings of the drug now, if you get them?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a great one.
So, you know, it actually came back into my life not too long ago, and I almost did it. You know, this is me being real with you guys. I told you we're gonna be real, and as I sat there and I looked at it, I thought about everywhere that I am, everything that I am today, and the grace of God and love that He gave me to allow me to get this far in life, to allow me to even breathe another breath, and think of my kids, and it goes back to my oldest kids. You know, I never ever wanted to be that way to them or my younger kids at all again. And so, you know, to be honest with you, after 12 years, 11 or 12 years, that was the closest I've come to it, and I don't crave it. I don't want it in my life, and I know that by being in a dangerous situation like that the possibility was there, and seeing that the possibility was there, then I also realized that I need to better be more aware on where I'm at and where my surroundings are and the people I have in my life at the moment. You know, because we want to love everybody, we want to help everybody. We don't want to. If you're stuck on drugs, we don't want to avoid you. We want to love you. We want to encourage you through it. But for the better interest of our sobriety, my sobriety, I should say, it's better to separate from those situations.
For me, mine's kind of amazing. So after trying to get clean when Shannon had first got out, we're trying to do church on Sundays, and I was at the part where I was tired and you just want to sleep and eat. You didn't want to get up. You don't want to go nowhere. And Shannon's like, let's just start going back to the Rock at the time, I think it was, right? And I gave in. It was like, okay. And we went a couple Sundays, and it was one particular Sunday. And every time they do the altar call for anybody that needs prayer to come up, the first 2 times I went, I felt like something just held my feet. And all the ugly thoughts in my head being like, why are you gonna go? You know you're gonna mess up again. I don't even know why you're trying this. You're not a good person. That's not gonna help you. And 2 Sundays in a row it did that to me. And on this particular day, I remember just breaking through that freaking feeling, and I got up and I got out of my freaking seat and I went up to the altar call, and I remember just falling to my knees and just and crying and sobbing, and I just told him, God, please, I don't want to be this no more. I have nothing left to lose. I have nothing more left to lose. What am I going to lose by giving myself to you? Please help me through this. I can't do this no more on my own. I need your help. I will not be able to do this on my own. And I'm telling you the truth, since that day, which was about going on 6 years ago, I have not touched that drug since. And I've had no cravings of it since.
Glory to God. Thank you, Jesus.
I'm able to have drinks of beers and stuff now, but for the first 3 years of my sobriety, I touched nothing. I wouldn't touch nothing. I wouldn't drink. People would drink around me. I was able to see that I could have fun without needing that crutch of like, oh, this is gonna make me fun. This is gonna make me have fun. So now there's certain times where I have certain dreams of being messed up. I would get like weird pains in my arms when I would wake up from dreams like that, which is weird. But I just, my being there for my little guy that I just had, and the fact that I'm there for my girls now, and I'm able to be such a better mother for them. They may not like that I'm always on their butts and this now. They probably wish I was fun sometimes, but when I talk to them about it, they 100% love who I am now, and they're so happy. And even at first, when I first started being able to have a drink, they would be like, why are you drinking beer? Like, they would not let off of me, because to them, they're like, why is my mom drinking? So now they're not like that with me. They know I like to occasionally, but that's because I don't overdo it. I don't like to drink a lot. If I usually drink once, I don't drink again for 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, both our beers are still full.
I actually hadn't even touched mine yet.
I don't know how long we've been in this video, but had a couple sips. But
that's how I do my God is what helps me with my cravings.
Amen.
And it's true then as it is true to this day. If I ever feel like that, I pray to him. And for me, I feel like my dreams are reminders of what I don't ever want. I don't know if the devil's trying to creep in and trying to show me, look, this is, remember the feeling, this and that. No, all I remember is the badness of everything that comes with that. And I'm 100% cool just being boring.
Yeah, you're not boring though. What else we got on there, baby?
Those are the only questions so far.
All right, so obviously to go forward with the story, I ended up locked up. I was looking at 32 years in prison. And those who know me know that I was a very active gang member in my community. I had a lot of problems with that, we'll just say, and with drugs all the way around with that as well. So when I got locked up, I've already been on paper for some other assaults, and I've been on paper for probably 12 years. I'd say close to that, and
It's the longest you've been off paper.
yeah, and so being on it for so long, it aggravated my charges. So when I kicked open my door, that was a burglary charge, and normally that would have been 16 years, but because it was aggravated, it was 32 years. But when I picked my wife up and I moved her away from that Jeep, that was kidnapping in the state of Colorado. If you move anybody in the state of Colorado against their will, or stop them against their will, that is a kidnapping charge. You do not have to tape somebody up and put them in the trunk. You do not have to snatch up a random kid. Their rules are, if you move anybody against their will, that's kidnapping. So that kidnapping charge, I believe that was 8 years, and aggravated made it 16. And then the smaller stuff, I'm not, the assault that was in there, they did try to get me with the child abuse one in the state of Colorado. If you get into a domestic altercation in front of your kids, that is child abuse. I don't even think you have to have physical altercation, just any kind of an altercation in front of your children, and the police get called, that is, you get charged with that altercation. They will throw in a child abuse charge as well. As far as, and then smaller stuff, damaging the house. They were just, everything they could find they were. So when I woke up in jail, I had a bandage on my chest, and when I woke up in there, I was already bleeding through it. And obviously, because of what I tried to do in the situation that I put those officers in, and which was potentially harm's way, I wasn't treated too good in there. I remember asking them in there, I was in Unit 3, and I remember asking them, hey, I'm bleeding through this bandage, and it was quite a bit, and because I didn't have a shirt on that night, and that less lethal round, they weren't very far away when they hit me, and so it opened me up. It left me a pretty good scar, and but I was bleeding an awful lot, and I remember telling them that I was bleeding, I needed my bandage changed, and it was painful. I couldn't breathe. I was having a very difficult time breathing, and it got me perfectly right here. I got a scar right there. But they said, just go take a shower and wash it off. And so, you can imagine the anger that carried in there with me. And then I found out that I was looking at 32 years in prison. I found out what all the charges were. They came and talked to me, and they said, this is what we'll do for you, Mr. Hawley. You plead guilty to this and this right now, and do 10 years community correction, or not community correction, 10 years DLC. That's the deal we're going to give you. Or you take it to trial, and if you lose, we guarantee we're gonna push for the maximum, which is 32 years. And in my eyes, I thought, okay, you're not going to get me for burglary because that was my own house.
Right.
And you're not going to get me for kidnapping because I was trying to stop him from drinking and driving, and I didn't put nobody in the trunk, and they drove off. So I was like, I ain't taking that deal. And I went up and I laid on my bunk, which was a top bunk. They told you they weren't very happy with me. And I laid up there for a couple days, and and I was angry. I'd walked the top tier, and I was talking to God, and I was like, God, how could this have happened? I gave up the gangs years ago. I've been drug free for this long. I go to work, I take care of my family, and I go to church. How could this have happened? And I felt him tell me, and when I say when God told me, which I'm going to say this a lot, but I don't mean that freaking a thunderous voice came in and said, Shannon, my son, listen to me. It was nothing like that, but I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my spirit. I felt him, and I heard him in my soul tell me, Shannon, it's because you got it messed up. It should never be work, family, then me. It should always be me, then your family, then work. And I took that and I started walking around the top tier, and I was thinking about it more and more and more. And I went and laid down. And when I laid down, I had gotten the jailhouse Bible. And I laid down, and this particular scripture, I wish I could remember what it was. I'd have to pull out that book. But a particular scripture, it wasn't even the scripture. I didn't even know what the scripture was going to be. It was just one of the books with a verse, chapter, with a chapter and a verse that just kept coming over and over in my head. So I was like, I'm going to look it up. And I opened up the book, and I looked up that particular book, the particular chapter and that particular verse. And it was telling me that, pretty much the way I read that is my choices, that I'm still a baby, and my choices that I'm making in my walk have led me to where I am at that moment. And so I maybe about a week later, I started going down into the unit and walking down there a little bit more. And they were holding Bible studies, not at the table. They had this little table. There's like three or four guys in there. And they were holding these Bible studies. And so I was like, you know what? All right, God. And I hadn't called and talked to my little girl yet or anything. And I sat down and I just started listening to them, reading the Bible verses that stood out to them. And I didn't share nothing. I just went back up to my room. And the night that all that stuff happened, I was supposed to take my daughter Mariah to Chuck E. Cheese that weekend. And so I finally got a call out to her and was able to talk to her. And she's 3. And so the first thing she's telling me on the phone is, she's like, Dad, I love you and I miss you. And she was so sad. I think we ought to really go back and touch base on how this affected her for sure. But she was so sad. And I told her, she said, Dad, are we going to go to Walkie Cheeses still?
Walkie Cheeses.
Yeah, she called it Walkie Cheeses. And I said, no, baby, I don't think we are, sweetheart. I'm stuck in here. And she said, well, Dad, just tell him that I said that it's okay for you to take me. And I said, baby girl, I'm going to go ahead and I'll mention that to him, but I don't think it works like that, sweetheart. And then she said, well, if they don't let you out, Dad, then I'll just shoot them like they shot you. And I said, oh. And I didn't, man, what an example, right? And I told her, baby, it wasn't their fault that they did that. They were doing what they had to do. I forced them to do that, and one of these days you'll understand that, and I'll help you understand that.
It took us a long while to get it because she really didn't like cops after that day
Yeah.
for a very long time.
Yeah,
I think it's better now that she's older to comprehend that.
Yeah, and she still has a difficulty with it.
She does.
Just touching back real quick. Angel, when that happened, Mariah ran out the house. We mentioned she witnessed everything. She witnessed the bang from the shotgun. She witnessed everything that I witnessed, except for from me looking down and feeling that. She seen it with her eyes. And Angel's the one that took her into the room, and I want to share that. When he took her into the room after that happened.
I think she was just sitting there crying, saying, is my daddy dead? Did they kill my daddy? And I told them no, that you were fine, but I didn't even know yet, actually, until I tried to go out the house. And the officer at the time was the one who told me that you were fine, that they didn't hit you with the lethal round, and that they finally had to tease you to get you to get in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so But just her saying that. Actually, we both at the time thought that because I seen the bang from the shotgun through the window. She actually seen it through the door, so I didn't know either. But I had to lie to her, you know what I mean, and tell them that you were fine there, everything was okay. And it wasn't until like I tried to go outside to see your shoes there that it was it. But yeah, it was very difficult time at the time.
Very, very hard with her. And so, you know, I started, while I was locked up, I started really connecting back with God, and
I got further down the road of drugs. So.
Yeah, and building a relationship, and I tried to let go of all that bitterness, and I, you know what, believe it or not, I was able to. You know, when you're locked up, people can say a lot of things, and even the people who are hardest on themselves are the people that were actually locked up. And they say, and I heard it so many times, I'm not gonna do this Bible thing because I'm just doing it because I'm in here in jail, or people just go to jail and they find Jesus. What better place to find God than in the pits, right? And so I was in the pits, and I kept hearing all these stories about the things that she was doing out there. Every time somebody'd come in and you know, being from the gangs and stuff, I come from the north side of town, and she was hanging around with those kind of people. So as much as I was trying to let it go, every time somebody came into the unit from the north side, I had this little walk mapped out to where I could walk them around the corner and walk them up the stairs and just talk to them, ask them if they know who she was, and find out if they were partying in my house, and then get right underneath the camera, which is where I would lay into them and put them down the stairs. And that's how that started off. And then eventually I just kept getting closer with God, and it was beautiful the way He used me in there. You know, I was able to take those 3-man groups, and God was able to take them through me and turn them into 15 and 20-man groups, and filling up 2 tables, and every Sunday being in there and being able to pray for everybody in the unit, and having everybody come together in the middle of the unit and just praying for their circumstances, and something that the COs had never seen before, you know. And I got plenty of friends, and maybe one of you guys are out there watching this right now, but I'm sure you remember those days, and God just really humbled my heart. And you know, one of the most amazing things that happened was after being in there for several months and knowing that I was possibly looking at the rest of my life in prison, I was writing letters out, constantly trying to encourage Angel, constantly sending her scripture, constantly sending letters out, just trying to let her know that, you know, circumstances have changed, she's a better person, just trying to lift her up. And anyway, Ashley, my daughter, she was watching, she had the other kids, you know. Angel was really messing up, and so my daughter, she stepped up to be mom, and she's just a teenager. And she one night I was in the unit, and I was trying to explain to Mariah through a letter everything that happened, and you know, kind of comfort her, because you know that she's been having some hard times. And so I did it in a story form. And I was just like Princess Mariah through the kingdom of this. And I told the whole story about how the king walked outside and was an idiot and decided that he was going to charge the other people. And it almost cost him his life because of the choices that the king made. But that the princess was going to be okay. And I just really threw it into this fairy tale. Not fairy tale, because it was all true, but into a story for her to understand. And this was on a Saturday. And so when it's done, I go up into my unit and I start praying over it. And by this time, I've really got a very strong relationship going with God. And I pull into my cellie, and we just start praying over it. And I just like, God, you know, my daughter's having a hard time. And you know, I've been in here for months already, and I haven't even seen them in my dreams. You know, if it's in your will, please just comfort her. Let her get this letter. Let it bring comfort to her heart. And if it's in your will, Father God, please let me meet up with my baby girl in my dreams. You know, I really miss her. I want to see her. And needless to say, I the whole time I was in there, I never once had a dream about my family, got to see their faces, anything in my dreams. But that Saturday night, I put together this letter and I took it down to the CO after we prayed on it. And then after we all went into lockdown, they took it to the mailroom later that night. So Sunday comes around, it's in the mailroom. the mailroom gets it all sorted out. The mail doesn't go out to maybe Monday or Tuesday. Monday, I get a letter from my daughter, Ashley, and they hadn't even received my letter yet. And Ashley, and I'm sure she's still in there, but if she's not, you got to ask her about this. It's just great. But I get this letter, and she said, Mariah, we were out playing with the kids. I think they're at a birthday party or something, and they're out hanging out, and Mariah just had a nervous breakdown out of nowhere and just started crying. And so they left, and they took her home, and she went to sleep. And the next day, she woke up all happy, and Ashley was telling her, "What are you all happy for? What are you smiling about?" And she said, "I had a dream about my daddy." God was so good. But she said, "I had a dream about my daddy, and he was telling me that, I'm a princess." She knew it all before she even got the letter. And that's how good God is. But, even fast forwarding through all that, so we don't waste a whole lot of time. I know we've been in this a lot, and you guys probably got things to do. I don't even know if anybody's still in there. But, I long story short, I went to the trial. I was locked up downstairs, and I found out the angel tried to kill herself. Really, really hard time. Every time I got into the courtroom, I was really hoping, I didn't even care what happened to me. I just wanted to see her face, just to whisper "I love you" to her, just to mouth the words "I love you" to her, and let her know that everything was going to be okay. And but she just wasn't there. She didn't make it to any of them. And when it came down to the trial, I heard the 911 call. I heard everything that I said. I heard the gunshots. I heard my baby girl scream, the most horrific scream that I've ever heard, other than my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, the relationship I have with my ex when the U.S. Marshals and Task Force got us. The screams they had, and they were feared with that. It was horrifying. And I went downstairs and I just started praying. I was like, "All right, God, how do I? I'm gone forever." And he just comforted me and said it was going to be all right. And it was. I went up there, and as they started reading the charges, the most of them got dismissed. The kidnapping, it was my house. We were able to prove that I lived there. They dismissed it. So as soon as they said not guilty on the 32 years, I didn't even care what happened. And then the kidnapping came up, and I was like, all right, 32 years is done. I could do 16. And when they said, as for the kidnapping, we the jury find him not guilty, but we are going to get him with an attempted kidnapping, which carried less time. And then the smaller stuff all stuck. And I took accountability for everything and got 8 years community correction, 7 or 8 years community correction. But I'll let her tell her side of that story now, what she went through it now.
Probably won't tell a lot of it because I don't really like to talk about any of that. But I will say that I did, as he grew closer to God, I grew further and further and further into the streets with drugs, with doing just stupid, reckless stuff. I did try to take my own life. CPS came in and gave me lots of chances. They gave me lots and lots of chances to get sober and give them clean ways, and I didn't. And they told me that you either take your kid, you call your mother right now on the phone and tell her to come get your kids, or we take them from here right now, and this is going to be a court matter. So I gave them temporarily to my mom. The minute my kids were completely out of my life and I couldn't see them when I wanted, it just crushed me. And I remember the exact day, and I believe I was hanging out with some friends at the time, and one of my friends turns to me and tells me, and I don't know if he was just angry at the time because he was going through a lot of stuff with his wife and their son because of his drug addiction. They had recently tried to rekindle their relationship together, and I think she was just in it for all the wrong reasons, and he was just angry that day. He turned to me and told me, "Why are you sitting here crying that your kids aren't here when it's your fault? It's your fault. Everything that happened is your fault. You don't have your kids, and instead of sitting there trying to get sober and do better, you're out here partying and drinking. I'd give anything to have my kids back." And it floored me. And just hearing that all day long, I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking, to where finally a box cutter looked good to me. And the box cutter was $2 at the time, so I didn't use that. but there's a bunch of pills in the cabinet. Everything from Benadryl to Tylenol PMs to the freaking NyQuil, everything. And I threw a whole mixture of them in my hand, and I swallowed them down with the fifth of Southern Comfort. And as I sat there trying to write you the suicide letter, there was going to be a letter to him to jail, because that's where he was at the time. As I sat there trying to write it and telling him that I was sorry, and finally admitting that I was on drugs, even though he already knew, and tell him to tell my kids that I love them. And I'm sorry I was such a piece of shit mother. And I'm sorry that I'm doing this to them, but they're way better off without me, because look at me, I'm never gonna get better. I'm sober for 4 years, and I can't do it. I just can't do it. This is gonna be my life forever. This isn't what I want. And I was a piece of shit, and I didn't deserve to be on this planet. And as I sat there trying to write that, tears were hitting the paper. And then I said, what the fuck did you just do? What are you doing? How are you going to write this letter to him like that while he's in jail? How are you going to do that to your babies? You told him you were going to the grocery store and you never came back. And then I tried to go to run to the bathroom and throw them up. Because I'm sitting there trying to shove my fingers so far down my freaking throat, and the fact that I hadn't eaten in months, probably maybe weeks at the time, and all I had was alcohol in my system, nothing was coming out. I couldn't throw them up. And by luck, my grandma messages me when I'm trying to do this, and she says, I am outside. Come outside right now. And she said that she had just gotten fighting with my mom. My mom told her, you know what, Jenny, just leave her. Your mom, just leave her. There's nothing I could do no more. She doesn't want help. I can't help her. She just left. I don't know what to do. Just leave her. My grandma, and I love you if you're watching this. Thank you so much. She said, no, I'm not going to leave her. I'm going over there, and I will honk and knock and honk and knock until she opens that damn door. And if there's anybody in there, I'm throwing everybody out. And she happened to show up, and I went outside because I was already thinking of walking to her house because it was as close to the Alamos. And I was like, well, if I walk, I was like, well, what if I start passing out? Because I was already couldn't walk. I was stumbling, and my grandma said that as I was going to the car, I was stumbling to the ground, and that when I got in the car, she was like, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? What are you doing? And I was like, see, you're always just yelling at me. And then I got out of the car and tried to run back in the house, and she said I was just falling and trying to pick myself up. So she followed behind me. And she said that I was just laying there crying, and she was trying to keep me awake. She was like, I'm calling the police right now. Do you have anything bad in the house that I need to get rid of? She said she was going through my laundry. She was going through everything and trying to keep me awake at the same time. And that day was such a realization at the same time, but didn't solve nothing, because even though I tried to commit suicide, and I woke up in the hospital and they were transferring me to a rehab slash what are those called? Outpatient, inpatient therapy with Northridge, all the way in Boulder. I got sober for a week, and I went right back down the same path. And the further I got down it, I started shooting up. And I don't even know what drove me to that, honestly. I think I was just looking for ways to feel better about my shitty life that I was going through. And around that time that I had barely started shooting up, my husband gets out of jail. And honestly, I think God has everything to do with everything. Him beating the case, me not dying that day, him not dying that day. Had he got killed by the cops that day, I definitely wouldn't be here. Mariah would be so messed up. Ashley probably would have had to ring Deja forever. Natalia would be with my mom. I mean, it would just been a whole mess of life, and that's just not what God had planned for us. So yeah, this is my shit path.
We got any questions or anything in there that we can answer? Thank you guys for. There's a little bit more now. We're gonna go into the good stuff of how our family's been restored. We shared with you some of what we went through and the pain that we went through, as far as looking at an entire life in prison, being out on the streets, sleeping with different people, suicide attempts. It was losing the kids. It was a really, really troubling time. All this happens within a year's time. This was just 1 year's time of all of this happening. You see anything on there?
No.
All right. So I beat the case, and I knew that I wanted to get out and I wanted to do something about suicide prevention, because when I was in there, my daughter tried to take her life as well. She had some issues with her mom. Angel's not her mom, but she's her mom, absolutely 100%. You would never be able to know, but biologically, she was having some issues, and I'm looking at the rest of my life in prison, and she was there for me the whole time. My daughter was there for me the entire time. She rode by me the entire way. My Ashley did, all the way. 150% was that little girl there for me, and I love her to death. She's my baby, but she made an attempt on her life, and it just crushed me. So I knew when I got out, I had to do something. I needed to get out, and so I got out in the halfway house, and I got there into the halfway house, and I was like, oh my God, just a feeling of freedom. And I wasn't free, but it was freedom, and I couldn't leave for 3 days. But I remember going up in the top window, and it overlooks out to the food bank. And I looked out, and there was Angel there, and she rolled up in a van, and there were the kids, and they were so close, yet so far away. And I was just filled with so much hope, and just everything was like, all right, God. I was just filled back up. It was like, thank you, and I couldn't wait to get out and see him. I just couldn't wait, I couldn't wait to go looking for jobs and this and that. And when it did, it was great to hold them and hug them in my arms, and just see them and just grab them and just physically squeeze them was just the most amazing thing, and it just felt so good, and I just didn't want to leave that moment. But there, as Angel mentioned, she was still messing up, and she was messing around with this other guy, and so this really triggered stuff in me when I got out, and I started I wanted to kill the dude. I'm not gonna lie, and I was actually going. I got into an argument with him on the phone, and I welcomed him to my job site, and I let him know where I was at. But this was an old job site, if anybody from work's watching. But I was gonna stick him. I was gonna put a blade in him so many times, and I was filled with it. Like, it was there. The anger was real, and that all. So what triggered that was just my family. I love my family, and it wasn't hard to trigger something in me, that a characteristic in me that was a part of me for so many years, That's how I handle things, and so it was easy to go back to that, Son, go play upstairs, please, buddy. Thank you, son. Appreciate you. Take Thanos with you. But what really triggered that was that things seemed like they were going to be working good. I had a card, and I was able to call her, and I called her on her birthday. And mind you, we've been together for years before this, 5 years? By this time it's 5 years has gone on. And I called her on her birthday, and I was led to believe that things were working out with this, and our family was going to be restored. And so on her birthday, I took the time out, and I called her up, and I started singing happy birthday to her. And at the end of that phone call, I don't even think she let me finish singing it. She said, "This isn't working." And I said, "What do you mean this isn't working?" And she's like, "This, what we're doing, it's not working." And it kind of wasn't, because, I was trying to go see her, but at the time, her family wasn't having that stuff. And so it was, if you see him, then that's it. You're on your own type thing. And so I had a lot of obstacles in front of me. A lot of obstacles. But I called her up, and I sang happy birthday to her. And she said, "This isn't working." And I said, "What do you mean this isn't working?" And she said, "I think I'm in love with somebody else." And that rang up there probably worse than "I hope they kill you." Like, damn, she's quite the sweet talker, this one, And but anyway, that triggered a lot of stuff in me, but I had to turn back to God and think, you know what, God, I'm having a hard time with this. The halfway house has taken all my money. My wife just told me she's in love with another man. I can't even go see them because I don't know. I was just being told that if I was around, that her family was gonna send her on her own, and so I was angry. I was filled with a lot of anger towards everybody, and I told God, you know, I can't do this. And I was at work, and this is the most beautiful thing as well. It was dark outside, and I was the only one there. I just got to work, and there was a utility light, the kind you crank up to put the light on our outside disposal that we had on the temp site, and I was standing in front of that, and I was thinking of all this negativity, all this bad stuff that was happening in my life again. After everything I just went through and just got close with God and said that, you know, God, I'm going to push forward and this and that. I'm going to do this. And then good comes back into my life. And then all of a sudden it's right back to the same thing. But I knew I wasn't going to handle it the same way. I made a promise to him, and he spared my life for a reason. But I was hurt. I was crushed. And I sat there and I was like, God, I don't know if I could do this again. This is too much for me. And again, he spoke to me. And it wasn't shana, but he spoke to my heart. He ministered to my soul, and I felt it in every breath that I took and everything that was in me. I heard him say, Shannon. And I was looking down at my shadow, and he said, you're getting so caught up in these little shadows in life that you're overlooking all the light that surrounds you. And I stepped back and I was like, whoa, you know, you're right. I just survived a suicide attempt against the cops. I get to see my kids. I was looking at 32 years in prison, but I beat that stuff in trial, and I only had to do 8 years in community correction. 8 years with one, so 7 years, because 1 year time served. And I'm sitting there, I get to hug my kids. I may not get to see them as much as I want, but I actually get to physically hug them. And the money's going to come back to me. They're taking it, and as soon as I hit non-res, it's going to come back. What's the worst thing that's going on in my life right now? That my wife was in love with somebody else? You're going to get through this. And I did. I started trucking forward, and I started being with foolish old Shannon again, though. Being with all kinds of different girls and this and that as a coping skill. Not proud of that at all. And I pray for every one of them, because it wasn't like, hey, let's go do this and do that. I lied to them, and I led them to believe that I was really interested in them and really cared for them, and just trying to cover up my own pain. How shitty of a person to do that. You know, God bless every one of them. And I'm going to teach my son to never, ever do that. Ever do that. And I'm going to teach my daughters to never accept anything like that. But, you know, we got through that. But we started, I have a great friend. I made it through the halfway house, keeping my spirit strong. I eventually did pretty much cut her off. And I think she realized that, hey, you know, this might be it. And she started reaching back out to me a little bit more from when I was reaching out to her. And we started talking about our family. And I was like, I'm serious about this. I love you. I love you. And I meant that. That's my best friend. And I love her. You know, so why am I going to give up on her? I was being just as bad. You know, there were just different demons. You know, I could have, maybe it did start with all this stuff, but the way I was handling it wasn't a justified and positive way to treat and do with somebody you love, you know. And I said, I want this. I love you, and I can forgive you. We can get past this. And I have a real good friend, Luis Marquez. Yeah, God bless you, Luis. You're an amazing friend. So Luis, when I got hit non-res, I was looking for places that would hire to a felon or to rent to a felon. I had to find a place to live, and I wasn't finding anywhere. You know, I had an attempted kidnapping charge I have an attempted kidnapping charge on my record. I was in the newspaper surely for going out and getting shot by the police. There was a lot of negativity that was going on and came with this case. And anyway, Luis left his home. He had his own home. He had his house, and he went and stayed with his mom and let me rent his place from him while I got on my feet. That's an incredible person, because that right there got my family back to where we needed to be, and we started working on things. We started working on what we needed to do. I said, we'll do counseling, you know, because we didn't want to hear each other. We needed a mediator. You know, we both felt victimized from what the other person done, but we still both knew, the accountability stuff that we did. But at the same time, she was still messing up, and she got locked up, and I got her. She got put in jail, and I got her bonded out and said, we need to do this. This is what I want to do, or we can't go forward with this. And so we started the counseling process, and I reached out to a pastor friend, and I love him. He's an amazing person. And I kept telling him, can you pray for my family? Can you pray for my family? And he told me, he said, Shannon, there's a calling on your life, and you probably need to leave this toxic person. This person's very toxic for you. And he was right, really. But at the same time, I wasn't going to give up on my family. And I'm not knocking what he said. He's seen something in me, and he's seen what was going on in my life. So he was looking out for me. But I wasn't hearing what he wanted to say. That's my family. That's my kids' mom. I've been through this before. I'm not going to do this again. I love this woman. And so we started rebuilding. We rebuilt our life. She was getting high for a while, and then, like she said, she got down to that altar, and then I started noticing the change in her immediately. The woman that I fell in love with, the woman that you guys know. This angel is an incredible person, and the world needs her, and the enemy knew that, and so he was trying to destroy her. He was trying to take her out of the equation, but it didn't work. God is good. He had other plans. We just had to go through it, and so we started rebuilding our relationship. The sobriety really helped, and it's hard. It's hard when so much damage has been done, because certain things trigger it. I told her one time, I said, a trigger for me at one time was, don't you ever mention yourself to be my ride or die for me, because I was angry that she left me, and while I was going through those hard times being locked up, that she wasn't there. I was angry with that for all those different reasons, but she was going through it too. She had her own struggles going on, and not to justify either one of us, but the Bible does say that to forgive and forget, and we don't. I had another great pastor, Pastor Joe. He said, forgive and forget, but the word forget means, or to forgive and forget, the word forget means to pay less attention to. And I heard that, and I listened to that, and it does mean to pay less attention to. So when those thoughts come up, when things come up of the past and things like that, I nip it. I pay less attention to it. I remind myself of why I'm in love with her. I remind myself of how incredible she is. I remind her all the time. I remind her on how much I love her, as I remind myself, and she reminds me daily. This is the woman I'm going to die with. This is the woman I'm going to grow old with. And you guys mark my words, we've been through hell. But in 20 years, if God is willing to still give us each life throughout that 20 years, you're going to see us together. And it's because we made it through the hard times. We didn't give up on each other. And we'll go into that as closing. But I would like for Angel to share what she was going through towards the end of that.
I just think the whole, I think the only parts I really want to share was just us overcoming that, starting from Luis's house and getting back together and letting all that other stuff go. And you're right, when you did cut me off, it didn't. I already knew. It just took the realization, are you really gonna let him go? This is the father of your children. This is the man that you really do love. You're gonna let him go. And I did wisen up. And I was just lucky enough that you weren't just no, I don't want you no more. Because you could have. Like I said, there's so many times in this thing, you always put the thing out that God sent you your angel, and I really feel at the time he sent you the person that was supposed to tear you down and keep you back in that dark place. That's what I thought, because I was a very toxic person back then. I am nothing what I'm like now. I'm very different, 100% different. I'm even from what I was like as a teenager, I'm completely different. But I just, from that time and getting sober, and it wasn't always easy. Things did remind us of stuff about the past, but I was going to prove to you and everybody that I'm pretty sure with each week and each month that passed, they're like, okay, it's only a week. It's only a month she's sober. No, it's only 3 months she's sober. Big whoop. She does this. And I'm pretty sure that was on all your minds, my family's mind, your mind, my kids. But when I hit that 1 year mark and the feeling of I made it here. I actually had read a post of a girl who had hit her 5 year mark. I was 3 days sober. and she was like so proud of herself, so proud of where she had come, and was just, she was like, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never thought I'd be making this post today. And I remember sitting there being like, that's going to be me one day. I'm going to prove it to everybody. That is going to be me one day. And sure enough, I did make my 5-year post last year. And I was so ecstatic about it. So happy about it. I think God really answered a lot of my prayers. And getting me to kick those cravings and using drugs and alcohol and everything as a coping skill. I don't care how angry I am or how frustrated I am when I get home. I will not open a beer if I'm irritated. I will not sit back and smoke weed to make my day better. I won't do things like that. I cope with it like every normal other person does in this world. You just deal with it. Take a shower and go to bed. If you're groused, you take a damn shower and go to sleep. That's what I do.
And then you talk about it. You gotta talk about it.
And then, yeah, if it was really that bad, if you were just having an irritating day because work was bad, but I just use better tools to deal with stressful situations in my life, and it's worked and it's helped, and I'm just so happy to be where we are. I think we're so much stronger than we ever were, even when we first started going out.
Absolutely.
100% stronger. And I think our love is even better.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Everything is better.
It is. Absolutely. We were two broken people when we met, and through the grace of God, we're still here. We're still alive. Here we are. Our family's been restored. She's been drug-free for 6 years. We just purchased our very first home. We worked our butts off. My wife started working. The first time, instead of being a stay-at-home mom and everything, she got out and started working, and felt, that brought a lot to her as well. She felt helping her feel good about herself. We found out what our credit scores were at. We started setting goals, goals to get a driver's license, goals to get through just different things in life. And we started mapping these goals out, and we started reaching them. And the last goal that we had was to purchase a home. And we did. We signed the paperwork for our very first home back in March. March 2nd, I think it was.
We're going on a year here.
Yeah, going on a year at our own home. This is our house that thank you God that we were blessed with. But we were able to do that because we didn't give up on each other. It was a toxic situation, but if you're in a toxic situation and the other person doesn't want it, then you're putting a lot of energy out for nothing. But if the other person wants it, and you guys can really remember why you're in love with each other and really look at what you may have to lose. There's this great thing that I've seen at church, and I've seen on Facebook many a times, where it shows a husband and a wife down here at the bottom, and it shows God up here at the top. And it just shows them as they move closer to God and they get closer and closer. It brings them closer to one another. And I really believe that is what has happened in our lives. We were able to, we've got God involved in our family, and He loves us and we love Him. And we do have hard days. There's still stuff that triggers us about one another, but the communication is a lot better. We still have our arguments.
We still have our fights where, like, don't touch my feet when we sleep.
Don't you dare touch my feet
when we're sleeping, and when we're mad at each other.
But I'll hug her at night when she's asleep.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, I think I do.
No. He does the toe touch to make sure I'm not angry still. If he slides his foot next to mine and I don't pull my foot back, then he knows that, okay, she's over the fight.
Yeah.
We can hug each other.
See, it's just those little things. Yeah. And she farts in front of me now too.
Oh, don't even get me started on that angry fart story.
But there's so much joy to a relationship.
Yes.
Sometimes we get into life and we forget that stuff. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we all, when we start getting into this relationship, we want to impress the other person, and we set this up there. But it's really important that we really express to the other person who we truly are, the real us. Because if the other person's only going to be in love with who you're portraying to be and your good stuff, but is going to run from your flaws, then that's not the person from you. The right person for you is going to know who you are up here and what your flaws are, and they're going to accept that. And you're going to accept theirs. And then from there, it's important. You got to remind each other why you love each other. It's so important. We get so caught up in work. We get so caught up in having to pay our bills. We get so caught up in taking care of the kids, getting home from work and having to rest and this and that we don't take the time to appreciate each other for what they do. My beautiful wife is such an amazing person. She goes to work. We take turns cooking and everything. When she comes home tired, she does her stuff. She takes care of the kids and gets them with their homework and everything. And she has this incredible bond with them, and it's amazing to see. And I'm so in love with her and so happy to see that she's like that with them, and not just with them, but with my 4 older kids. She loves them like they're hers, you know. And and I'm in love with her with that. And you know what? Another thing we need to stop doing, and I see people do this all the time, is we get into the argument. I work around a lot of multiple different people, and you hear them constantly. Sometimes they started at jokes, but they're constantly speaking about the negative stuff about their relationship. There's always going to be something negative about the other person. We are human beings. No matter who you find in your life, there is going to be something negative about that. You're going to have to relearn to fall in love with somebody all over again and relearn their flaws and learn how to accept that. You are never going to find a perfect person. But so many people get so caught up on that. My wife don't do this. My husband don't do that. My husband's this. My wife is that. I refuse to do that. Anybody who knows me, anybody who works with me, I speak life over my wife all the time. I know her flaws. Everybody else don't need to know her flaws, and I don't need to concentrate on them. I know why I love her. And it's the same thing. When they speak on things like that, I speak on how great my wife is. You speak on how horrible yours is, I'll tell you how great mine is. And you know what? I bet if you step back and think about it, you're going to remember the great in yours as well, or the great in your husband. You know, I think that's a really important thing. You know, another important thing is with the children. You know, our biggest arguments come because of the children. We have different ways and views on what we need to do, but they're both right. The way her loving, nurturing way of doing it is right, and it works. My stricter, boundary setting way, it works and it's right. They're both right ways to do it, and they're both very so much needed. You know, but we got to get over that stuff. We got to be team members. We are a team. You and your relationship are a team. You guys are building your own foundation. You know, you're building your own legacy. You're building your own dynasty. That is your team. That is your partner. You guys got to treat each other like team members. You got to love each other like you got to love each other like lovers, but respect each other like team members. Because that is what it's going to take to make a relationship work. If you're going through something dark and the love is there and it's mutual and you both know it, then fight for it. It is okay to get counseling. It is even more than okay to include God into it, because God can move mountains, and He does. This is proof right here that He could do it. If you really are going through it right now because of this COVID and the time that you're spending with somebody at home and the stress, that's the biggest one, is the stress. We don't always express stress the right way, but we got to remember that we're going through it together as a family. We're going through it together as a family. Your stress is my stress, and my stress is your stress. Let's get through it together. That's what we got to remember in a relationship. And we got to remember that, hey, you're not my enemy. You are not my enemy. You're my lover. You're my friend. You're my kids' mom. You're my kids' dad. You're so much more to me than for me to allow the situation to draw out to become to where we are enemies. That's how it starts off. You know, it might start off with the smallest little snowball up here, but you don't address it. Communication is key. If something is bothering you, you need to have the courage to take the time out away from it when you're not heated, and then to go to that person and in a respectful way say, hey, look, this is bothering me. You know, you've said something this morning that is really bugging me, and maybe they don't even know that they said it, but it still got to you, and you can correct them that way. But if you don't say nothing, they don't know about it, and it's a little snowball there, and you're not going to let it go right away. And then the next thing's going to come, and that snowball gets bigger. And then the next issue comes, and it gets bigger. And before you know it, you got an avalanche of snowballs coming down, giant snowballs coming down, and you hate each other. You fell in love with each other for a reason. You had kids with each other for a reason. You built a relationship with each other for a reason, and it's because you love each other. Don't lose sight of that. Talk to each other. Communicate with each other. And love each other.
Love you.
I don't even know if anybody's still in there. But if you are, this was long, and I love you guys. I'm going to let you get back to your night. And if anybody has any questions for us, we're open. If anybody wants to talk to us, if you want to come over as a couple and you're going through it, we're here for you. We're here for you. We love you. And we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for hearing our story. thank you for not judging us for it. You guys have a good night. God bless you all. And